Without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
Without a shadow of doubt.
Without a shadow of doubt. But
I mean, communication or lack thereof is pretty much always the leading cause of
making assumptions.
Yeah, making assumptions, taking things personally. We think that people act or make certain actions based on us, but it's always a reflection onto yourself.
It is.
Or that person, you know. Yeah, no, it's really fascinating stuff, eh?
In terms of and then in terms of failure, there's no such thing as winning or failing or winning or losing.
It's about enjoying the process. That's what it's all about, you know. And also after a while, you know, when you put trust in the process, you can learn to start loving the process. So in these
and
low
it brings
moments,
you joy because all three are interchangeable.
So you'll literally, you can be hitting a rock bottom, like lying there like on the floor, but you can see the beauty in the process. You realize, okay, this is the bottom. It's an upward curve from here, you know. It's part of the process. So, you know, often we'll say, okay, I want to become like this, and that in the future. But in order to become this, and that in the future, you have to go through certain processes to define yourself and display those characteristics at a later point. You can't just say, I want to be like that, and then you are automatically like that. It does require some effort or some process from external forces coming in, you know. It's not an instant thing.
No, of course. And you got to just be that. Also, like what we've discovered as well is that
believe it first.
Although you may not feel it, just believe it anyways. Keep believing, yes, I am a power greater than myself. I can change this world. I can have good relationships. You can be whatever you want to be. Place being before doing. Don't try do to be. Place emphasis on being. And you will see that love is like a glue that binds us. But don't have love as in a sort of magnet that attracts and then repels one another. Because we've often found we attract people in our lives and then we repel them. We don't want their love. We don't feel like we are worthy of their love. And that's because of this conditioned thinking that we're not good enough, that we are less. And to all our listeners out there, you're enough. Every single one of you are enough. You always have been. The minute you came into this world, you were more than enough. And you must keep telling yourself that I am enough. I am enough. I am good enough. I can have whatever I set my mind to.
You also have all of the tools that you need to succeed right here, right now, as well. And then, so back to the thing about, you know, breaking up. I just want to touch on this point again.
Yes.
So when we break up with someone, we lose that co-created space. We lose that co-created energy. Literally a part of our minds are like trying to hold on to something that's no longer there, you know. So when you get out of a relationship, suddenly you've got all this free time where instead of directing that love that you were giving to someone else, you can start giving it to yourself. Start giving it inwards, you know. And when you do that, then you can really learn how to start loving again, because, like, you know, when you get to kind of stagnated relationships, you might start feeling like, I don't really know how to love this person. And then if you look a bit deeper, you can actually realize, okay, I don't actually really know how to love myself at the moment. You might be displaying some destructive or addictive behaviors to try fill this void that's kind of inside, because essentially what the void is absence of self-love, you know. Like, if you're good at practicing self-love, or if you do genuinely love yourself, you're not going to have a void inside you. You're never going to feel like there's something missing, because you're going to know yourself as like a complete whole being.
You want to be synchronized with yourself. You want to have that connection with yourself. You want to be able to communicate with yourself.
And be honest with yourself, essentially, because, I mean, even for me personally, like, especially through high school, I'd have the thought inside, and I knew what the truth was, but I'd still deny it actively in my mind. My mind would be like, no, you don't think that. Like, actually, you think this. But deep down, I knew exactly what my true feelings were about it. And it unfortunately takes a while to start trusting that intuition as well. You really can't just go off it, and, you know, it's difficult putting trust in something unknown as well. Which is essentially, like, you know, why a lot of people might fear getting into relationships. The fear of the unknown, putting your trust into someone that you don't fully know. Or
can I tell you something very interesting about that, though? So you have that fear that lives in the subconscious. We'll call it the shadows.
Yeah.
And these shadows run you. They run your life. Your subconscious runs you. But the minute you bring something from the subconscious into the conscious, and now you're consciously aware of it, you now breathe this new life of existence, because now you are finding in the unknown is where all the new possibilities lie. But if those possibilities were in the known, they wouldn't be new, would they? So you now know all new possibilities in life. They exist in the unknown because you don't know what they are. They are new to you. Therefore, chase that. Chase the unknown. Challenge yourself. You're never going to be
Always
changed.
challenge yourself.
You won't change unless you challenge yourself. You got to get out of your comfort zone. You can't
That's
keep...
key. That's key.
Really, and that's with the relationship as well. And if you feel like someone's going to challenge you and you could possibly see yourself becoming a better person with this person,
Go for it.
go for it. Don't stick to what makes you comfortable. Do things that make you uncomfortable
Yeah.
and make that comfortable for you. And that is what growth is doing things that make us uncomfortable and being comfortable with that.
Making those uncomfortable things become comfortable, you know?
Exactly. And then you carry on doing that. And what happens? Your comfort zone expands to the level where everything you touch starts becoming successful.
Yeah, and
You attract
just
the energy in your
yourself,
life.
you feel yourself expanding, you know yourself as like a creative being, you know, you like, I can, and like suddenly there's something amazing in my life, there's something amazing in my
Yeah.
life, it's all coming together. Suddenly
Houdini!
these
Gandalf,
these
you
can-
shall not pass! No, sorry.
No, sorry dude, that was a little bit swag.
Rude.
But yeah, you know, like, when you start realizing like, yeah, I've got the power to create and make the life that I want, it's an empowering feeling. You
It
just become
is.
like, wow,
We've got
like,
the power in us.
amazing. I didn't know that I had it in me, because often you can see like, okay, I know exactly where I want to go, but how do I get there?
I
you
got,
know?
I got asked this week, if you could have any power in the world, what would you have? And immediately my mind went to old patterns of thinking.
Oh,
like,
yeah?
oh, I'd love to have
Ferrari.
I wish I could be invisible. I could go stand in the corner of the club and go steal a dope behind the bar. I was like, this is a terrible power to have. And then I realized I have the power. I've always had it. The power to create anything
Yeah.
I want.
Yeah,
If God
literally.
can create everything here, whatever your conception of what God is, a higher power. The force that I've just done right here, this force, I'm lifting my arm, I'm blinking, I'm moving. I can use my force to create something. We have created a podcast here. We've created a space, along with our beautiful friend Felix, of course. And Sam, hey guys.
And Byron.
And Byron, such a legend. We have created this space. We have the power within us to create a world
And
of
if-
beauty,
yeah.
of acceptance, of purity, of prosperity. It's all a self-projection of the self, but you have to go within. You have to go within. If I don't go within, I go without.
Art.
And it's the absolute truth. You are yourself. You are this being. You're not a human being enjoying a spiritual experience. You're a spiritual being enjoying the human experience.
Yeah.
And that's what your soul is. Your soul encapsulates your body. Your soul is here to live through you, through this body that we've been given. It's just
Through you,
one
not for you.
through you, not for you.
Yeah.
Exactly. So live for your soul. Live for your soul. And that whole thing of heartbreak, it's such a fascinating concept to think that heartbreak is actually palpitations, severe palpitations that causes sinews within the actual heart to expand and tear. And that's what heartbreak is. It's that excessive
Yeah.
beating of the heart, or the very slow beating of the heart. You know, when you cry and you get choked up and then your heart begins to hurt. And that's actually heartbreak. And animals can feel heartbreak as well, which is fascinating. And the whole thing with heartbreak, you think you have lost a portion of the other person. You think you've lost this important cog in your life. The whole pain that comes after a relationship breakup is loss of yourself. You've lost a piece of your identity, and now you have to break routine of being with this person the whole time, and you've got to start
Establish a
being
whole
with
new one.
yourself.
Yeah.
And you sit there, and I remember so distinctively a year ago, October, November, even December, I sat there and I was like, I don't know myself. I haven't sat with myself in ages. I haven't had thoughts just about myself, who I am, what I want to be. And that is what has started this whole voyage on this sort of self-exploration to discovery. I just want to know, why am I here? What is my purpose? And then I started understanding my purpose is to serve, is to help others, it's to be of service. And that is the beautiful thing of this life. Like, the quality of a life is the quality of contribution. Contribute to others, but first it always comes back to self. It's about you. It's within you. You can only project and manifest what you're feeling onto others. You can only
Yeah.
make someone happy if you're happy. You
No,
can
I mean,
only love
that's-
someone if you love yourself. And then you start unconsciously sharing this emotional poison with the other person, and it brings both of you down in the relationship. A lot of people between the ages of 40 and 60 get divorced. Why? Because they had a grand vision of who they wanted to be. They're like, I want to be this in life. But instead of investing power into themselves in the relationship, they kept worrying about the other person, making sure that they were happy, making sure that they were elevated. And where the one pedestal lifts, the scale must dip. So therefore, neglected self. I didn't realize my full potential. I didn't have my dreams. It leads to bitterness. And that is what makes you a bitter human being, essentially. Sometimes you find
Yeah.
someone who's just got no zest for love, for life, for anything. And it's just remarkable to think
No,
about.
I mean, Yeah, like it all starts with the internal world because essentially our lives are just a projection of what's happening in here.
Yes.
So, like the age-old analogy of like planting seeds of thought, whichever ones you water will grow, and the whole concept of neuroplasticity, which we discussed in the first podcast as well. I mean, it affects you greatly. Like if you have creative thoughts constantly, you're going to start creating, and it follows the same three steps every time: thought, word, action. So you'll think about something. That's the first level of creation. We get this energy coming into our minds like from external stimulus. We have an idea,
Yeah.
we have a thought, and we're like, okay, fantastic, maybe let's share this with someone else. You share it with someone else.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, awesome, great. And then you can start putting that into action, you know?
No, 100%.
Yeah, it's also interesting, like I know we sidetracked a little bit there, but like looking at love and as you age, how the idea of love changes. So obviously you start off as like a newborn, you've got this, I'd say it's unconditional love from your parents at that point. No matter what you do as a newborn, your parents are going to absolutely love you because you don't have any identity really. You start gaining that identity as you go through life, as you start having experiences, as the external world essentially starts shaping you. And then we get to kindergarten, and there might be like, you know, a girl that she's like, oh, I like her, like she's nice. And, you know, you might play kiss catch on the playgrounds, or you might like pull her hair. I don't know what kids do. I mean, it's been what, 15
Kiss
years
catch.
since I was there.
I used to love Kiss
Yeah,
Catch.
Kiss Catch all the time, and
my
then
goodness. I remember this one girl on the playground that she would just love to kiss the boys, and I would get caught on purpose. Like, of course.
Pretty sure I did that once or twice as well.
No, of course. And
Not
that
gonna
could
lie.
also be a metaphor from you're running from what has caught you already. So when you're running from the truth, it's already caught you because you know what you're running from. And that's a lot of what happens to people
Yeah.
in relationships. They know what the truth is, but they let it stagnate. They let it get to a point where a lot of people I've heard, they let it get to a point where they physically feel forced out of a relationship, that
Yeah.
there has to be a moment, an event, a catalyst almost to break it off. And I don't agree with that, because through that whole process, you're causing so much damage as it is, not just to the other person, to yourself, as we've clearly spoken about. And then you come out of this heartbreak and that whole loss of identity. It's actually the trauma that has caused brain damage. You actually get brain damage from trauma after a huge breakup. But a lot of people let it stagnate because of fear. And it's fear-based love that they give. So what do they receive? They receive fear-based love from the other person. That whole jealousy, you know, frustration, rage, anger, non-acceptance. It's because when they came into the relationship, they actually had all of those emotions displayed already. They already knew from the outset, I don't really like what he's doing here. That will be like maybe 2-3 months in, but I'll let it slide. Maybe he'll change. Of course he won't change. You haven't accepted this person for who they are. And you haven't accepted yourself clearly, obviously, because everyone is perfect in their own right.
Yeah.
Their whole purpose is to self-create, become a new definition of self. And like we have touched on many a time within this podcast already, it's the intention at the outset that defines your relationship.
It's always about the sponsoring thought. Like it's always correct. Like you'll have an initial feeling or kind of foresight into where this could go, and like I can tell you 100% of the time that is accurate, and you should be following that exactly. Okay, we got a little bit sidetracked again there, but basically then you move on to, you know, being a teenager, and then you get these like awkward crushes on someone, and then, you know, it's a different form of love, I guess, like romantic love. Then you get to the stage of like physical exploration, and then we start thinking, okay, the only way we can express love is physically, not necessarily through just sex, but I'm saying, like, you know,
Which we're
there's a
going
lot of
to
hookup
touch
culture.
on. Which we're
A
going
lot
to
of
touch
hookup
on.
culture when you reach the age of what, like 15,
When you
14,
start reaching
15,
adolescence,
16.
you've got
Yeah.
this burning desire, this
Your body
energy.
is changing, other people's body are changing. Like
Yeah.
you're curious to experiment, you're curious to find out what you do like, what you don't like, you know. And I mean, it's easy as well because you don't fully understand what love is. Like that happened to me. I thought I was in love with this girl. I wasn't. Like it was just an infatuation with the idea of who she was and who she could be.
It becomes
to me.
obsessive.
Yeah. So like kind of what how could she serve me in my life? What roles could she play? You know, like that loving girlfriend.
What could I get out of it instead of what can I put into it?
Yeah,
and that's
and
so
that's a
often
big mistake.
that's so often the human case. Is we're looking for the advantage. We're looking how we can better ourselves, and little do we understand by bettering another person, we
are
bettering
bettering
ourselves
ourselves.
inadvertently, because we are all connected. We are all one. You know, we are all a species. If you'd like to see it as an organ of this earth, we are. We could literally be seen as the liver, whilst the trees and plantation could be seen as the kidney. And at the moment, I feel like as an organ, we are currently failing because we have some segments that are wanting to thrive whilst others aren't. And fear is what keeps us there. You know, fear is an energy that contracts us, makes us feel small, insignificant, where love, it expands us, makes us feel bigger.
Wholesome, eternal.
Eternal. And that brings us back to the synergetical energy exchange, which is sex.
Sex.
Which is sex. And this is something that's either been over glorified or shamed throughout our society. And
Yeah.
people either look towards sex as being, no, that's non-conformist, you're not allowed to do that, you got to conform with society and only have sex at a certain age, or
After a certain ritual, which is marriage.
Exactly, after a certain ritual, which is marriage. Which marriage we can also touch on as well. And the synergetical energy exchange is amazing. It represents what love is, and love is an energy which can be transferred, and it's never lost. And the minute I receive love from you, I inadvertently want to give it back.
Yeah.
So,
I guess.
and you give it back to yourself as well. So the synergetical energy exchange, it's within the matrix field. And when I feel a deep attraction for someone, like I did in high school, was it the attraction of the idea of the person, or was it my actual intuition? And when you don't listen to your intuition, it's because the mind is controlling you at some root level. You're like, I love that girl. She's amazing. I really feel connected to her. But you know what? She's not actually that pretty or good enough. Yeah. Like, how will people perceive me if we got together? And you neglect that part of yourself because the mind is controlling you. You're an autopilot. But that energy that exists between you, you don't know what it is. That chemistry. It's like a chemical reaction. Like,
yeah, you can feel when the chemistry's there straight
equals
away.
love. Yeah, and that's amazing. And sometimes the burning desire. So you end up having sex, and sometimes that leads to an oversupply of sex. And what does that mean? That's an oversupply of energy from the sex, and that leads to an offspring, which is a child. And that's an amazing thing. I mean, we are able to create life. We got brought into this world by two people, as did I and you. That's amazing to think that we can create life. We can bring life into this world, and that is power that we've been given. And we should understand that. And that is through love. Look what love brings us.
Yeah. I mean,
look at what it creates.
It's creating a life physically, and then also creating a life on a mental, physical level as well, or like an emotional level. So you shaping your offspring, into a person that you think they should become. So, you could also argue that kids, and as you grow up, you aren't actually truly yourself. You're just an amalgamation of all of the external things coming into you, all the kind of everything you've been fed, not just in a food sense. I'm talking about the media that you consume,
metaphorically,
the belief systems that you get grown up in, or like that you're exposed to, like
receiving love conditionally,
whether or not you've been involved with, like, I don't know, religion, or if you've had a traumatic upbringing. These are all things that shape us, and it's not actually ourselves at the end of the day. So by the time you become an adult, you really are just a product of everything that's been happening around you your whole life.
You're a product of society.
Yeah, exactly.
You just become another number.
Yeah.
And then you look at people like, how are they extraordinary? And they didn't believe the belief systems that were passed down. They went against everything that everyone said. They were like, you know what? Actually, no. Like an Elon Musk was bullied severely in high school in Pretoria Boys High. And look how he's manifested his life. Because
was he at Pretoria Boys High?
He was at Pretoria Boys High. Doesn't even want to refer to the school. It traumatized him, but it also drove him to success. Drove him for the human experience, and he knew that he could bring something to the table. He knew that he could change this world, and he never denied it. He didn't deny himself because he had the belief system, and he didn't allow society to pass down this belief system onto us. And another one is marriage. He gets passed down. Get married. Have kids.
No one questions it.
Doesn't necessarily bring you happiness. It doesn't. There are a lot of people in marriages that are unhappy with kids that they thought would bring them happiness, and they do to an extent. But also that brings a lot of responsibility. And they don't see it in the same light. They don't see themselves as happy. They got this void. And I feel like with marriage as well, it's a misconception. You're basically writing a contract with someone to ensure that they stick with you. Do you not feel like that is at some root level a bit of fear? A little bit of fear sponsoring thought. I don't want to lose you.
So let's make it official.
From one perspective, of course. Obviously, there's a whole bigger perspective to it as well. I mean, not just for our financial means or, for our actual marital sort of status, but a lot of people as well, they feel like once they get married, they've got this person to themselves now. And what I don't agree with is, don't reserve your love for one person that you get married to. Love everyone equally.
Yeah.
Love this person that you're married to the same as everyone else, because everyone is the same. We're all united. So now marriage makes it feel like we're not eternal, which we are. We are eternal. Marriage makes it feel like we are insecure about love, that we'll never get it back. It's trust. Once again, it goes back to trust. If I trust you to the extent I don't feel like I need to get married to you for you to stick with me, then I've just defied society. I've gone against what society thought. It's like, guys have been dating for years. Why don't you just get married? The thing is, what does marriage mean? What does it define? What does it mean that we are legally now bound to one another? be spiritually bound to one another. Be
Yeah.
spiritually bound to yourself. Love should be a glue that keeps you together. It shouldn't be a glue that attracts and repels like a magnet would. You know, that's why marriage sometimes have your vows redefined.
I mean, you literally in marriage, you putting a fucking circle around your expression of love. You're saying, no, this is limited to this person and like my family, and like you can't openly love anyone else like by society standards, and that's obviously problematic because, like you said, you should be loving everyone evenly. You should be loving your biggest enemy as much as you love your spouse, maybe, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if that could happen, there wouldn't be any war or anything. There wouldn't be any conflicting interests. I mean, yeah, obviously conflicting belief systems maybe,
But there'd be a resolution.
Yeah,
There'd be
yeah.
a way to resolve it without
Yeah.
leading to violence.
And like you mentioned early in the podcast as well, something about like when like love is conditional. So it should be unconditional. And if you think about it, in the moments where we might screw up or do something that other people think, okay, no, that's bad, those are the moments where you need more love than any other moments. You shouldn't be shunned and ashamed in those moments. You should be surrounded by love and support after you mess up, you know, because that's how a healthy healing process can start. And the way our minds work as well, we're kind of accustomed to, well, obviously we thrive off of being rewarded and like the feeling of like, yeah, we've done well. So in those moments where we've been, or where we feel like we've messed up, you wouldn't necessarily even feel like you've messed up anymore. You feel like, okay, this was an important learning process. That's a healthier way to look at just going through life, you know, not that, oh, you failed. It's you learning, you in the process of getting there, but you're not a failure. And like if you look at schools as well, like teachers are very quick to put kids into categories like your top set, bottom set, whatever, and everything in between. So if you get put in the top set, you believe, okay, I'm smart, like I'm here, I'm being in the top set. If you're in the lowest set, you're like, okay, I'm here, I'm being in the lowest set. So you being and then you doing, and then you know you're going to get caught in this belief structure that I'm here, this is where I should be, this is my place, and you don't question it. No one questions it. They just accept, okay, I'm obviously not as clever as the people.
You
in
feel
top
like
set.
someone's placing
Or
a
like if you're
ceiling
in
on
top
your
set,
life.
you're like, oh, look at me, I'm fucking smarter than you. And it's not the
Yeah.
case. It's just everyone's different. Everyone has different strengths and weaknesses, and it's just a case of knowing exactly
And that's
how
the
to
beauty of it.
utilize them, you know?
It's bringing out your greatest potential. Everyone has unique
Yeah.
tools and talent, and that's what makes it perfect. I'm unique, which is exactly the same as you.
So like one
That's a paradox.
analogy that I really liked, I think I've said it to you before, was Messi versus Ronaldo. They're both considered two of the best footballers ever to have lived, and they're completely different. Ronaldo's big, he's muscular, he works out every day. Messi's small, agile, nimble, and both of them are exceptional players in their own right, and it's just about utilizing your body type and your strengths and weaknesses.
No, but 100%. I couldn't agree more. And on that note, we're going to be finishing up with this podcast. So I'd like to say, just lastly, a big thank you to Art Hub Productions. We
Big
really
thank you.
enjoyed
Felix,
this.
you want to make a quick appearance here?
No, I'm all good. It's your show, man. Like, you guys just thank us. It's all good.
This is the outside in.
Felix, Byron, I don't know if you could... Yeah, there you are.
We love you.
And where's Sam? Is she around?
Love you, Sam.
Yeah.
So before
Hey,
you
be
guys
careful.
leave us, the last thing I have to say is, before you enter a relationship, ask yourself 2 questions. Who am I? Who do I want to be? And that should redefine the relationship from the outset. And don't just jump into anything. Enjoy yourself. Love yourself. You love yourself. Don't be naughty.
Love you all. Love
I
you.
love you.
Love you.
I love you, bro. Give me a hug. That's a wrap.
The outside in.